whatever you try to adjust, you have gathered an understanding for it. You have made it become a part of your perception. And because it has become a part of your perception, a part of your life, let's say, that's why it's one with you, that this life will end in the way how you know it. That sometimes is enough to recalibrate you in paying more attention of where you are investing your lifetime. This is for sure something true.
And that is another week of my life gone. That was a good week. And remember, the only thing that exists is this unmarked square right here. That is the present. So don't worry about this because it's gone, and don't worry about this because that will come when it comes. And as the Stoics say, amor fati, love your fate. So when this comes, you just have to love it, and it helps you accept the challenges of life and use them for your advantage. So, memento mori. Welcome back to the Everyday Stoic. I am William Mulligan. The following is a talk I had with Master Shi Heng Yi of the Shaolin Temple Europe. We cover topics such as memento mori, amor fati, dichotomy of control, and we talk about Stoic figures such as Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. It was very interesting hearing Master's thoughts on these Stoic principles and how they intertwined with his own personal beliefs and philosophy. I hope you enjoy. What tea do we have?
This time you wanted oolong? Let's try some oolong therefore. Yes.
So today I'd like to talk about the three main Stoic philosophers, which is Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, and just go through their teachings and get your thoughts on their teachings. So Seneca, he wrote an essay on the shortness of life around 65 AD, and he says that it's not that we have a short time to live, it's that we waste so much time. So I'd like to know what you think about that.
So to just say right from the beginning, I'm absolutely no specialist in what other philosophers, for example, are sharing or are teaching. But if there is a statement, for example, the one that you just shared with me, then of course I can try to give you my view on it. But also meaning this is the view that based on my experience and the way how I am looking at life, I'm coming up with. So that means there might be other Buddhists, there might be other people coming from another tradition who see it differently. So therefore one thing really importantly to keep in mind is everything that I am trying to share, for example, it's shared based on my experiences. So, and when it now comes to the shortness of life, and that apparently it seems like it's not the time in a way that is running out. It is the time that we are wasting not achieving anything. The time that we are investing something actually, but without doing anything. And there, now it doesn't even come from the Buddhist teachings, but Lao Tzu, a teacher from Taoism. Let me see if I can put this sentence together. But literally, or he said, it is better to remain calm and do nothing while achieving nothing than doing a lot and investing a lot of effort and energy and at the end not achieving anything. Yeah. So already in that sentence it means that it is possible that you are investing effort, that you are investing parts of your life, but eventually nothing of that somehow is going to remain with you. And now from the Buddhist perspective, what I can see is that my parents, they got old. A part of my elder generation, meaning my grandfathers, and my grandmothers, some of them are not even alive anymore. So what I definitely can witness, what I can see is there is something that we just call impermanence. Impermanence meaning nothing stays as it is. So even lots of achievements that we think that we are building up in this lifetime, even that one eventually will disappear. So now, knowing this, knowing that this time that we at this moment call as life has a limited time frame, that in a way this time is limited, that there is a certain degree of actions that you can put into this lifetime. Out of these thoughts, I just think one of the main questions to ask yourself is, what would you like to do with the rest of the lifetime that you still have available right now? So, and this is the same for everyone. I think, for example, I'm almost going to the 40s. So just imagining I would become 80. That means half of my life, half of the time is gone already. In case you are in the mid-20, hopefully you're going to live like 100 years. So 3 times more to go. But no matter what, there will be the time that is going to run out in a way. Or let's say, you only have that remaining time where you're still possible to do something about the lifetime as you know it right now. Let's call it like this. And so, of course, ultimately, what arises is the wish not to waste this lifetime. So there it suddenly starts with, but what does it mean to not waste? It means doing a lot, thinking that you are doing a lot, but ultimately there is no real outcome. This is the type of actions I would definitely try to avoid in this lifetime. So now the question is, but how can it be? So how does it actually happen that people are doing a lot of things, but ultimately maybe you really come out with nothing in your hands? That can only mean that something in the way of how you handled life and how you handled your actions is not in alignment. It's either not in alignment with what you are wishing, or it's not in alignment with what this life is wishing for you. So in order to not waste time, number one is be sure about your intentions. This is something I have in my hands. So that means every action that I do, I want to bring purpose into the things that I do. And for example, I know we have like a conversation right now, and this is why I want that we have a conversation, first of all, without our mouths getting too dry, but at the same time, like also just having, in a way, a good time. And that's why part of this is, that's why I just prepare tea while we're having this talk. So that means I don't do these things empty. I didn't prepare the tea. I didn't like just take any tea. I want that this time that we are right now, for example, spending together, that it is a quality time. And this is what I have in my hands. Yeah. So, and this is for me that expression of how do you bring value, quality into your lifetime? Well, you need to fill it up with that quality. And what is it that is determining the quality? It is the intention, because this intention is creating that quality. Yeah, I hope somehow that makes sense, but like these are like the thoughts, at least when I hear it, that come to my mind. And yes, it could be, I'm not sure yet, I don't know, that time itself is not limited. Time itself is not limited, but that we perceive this time frame in the way of what we call my life, your life. That one definitely is limited. Time itself maybe is not limited, but the way how we have the chance to perceive it for ourselves, that one, I think, is limited.
Yeah, that made perfect sense. That's great. The next philosopher is Epictetus, and he talks about the dichotomy of control, which is the understanding of the things that are outside of our control and what is inside of our control. And he says that we should not worry or stress about the things outside of our control. So I'd like to know your thoughts on this control.
Let's take the word control, for example. Sometimes if I talk too fast, it also flops out of my words that I use control. But if I properly think about what is actually meant, I would rather replace it by adjust. And why is that? Because if you are controlling something, it still means that that something you are trying to control is not a part of you. It's not a part of you because you control it. So we're talking about like two separate areas. I am here and this is what needs to be controlled. If I'm talking about adjustment, then what I mean is, whatever you try to adjust, you have gathered an understanding for it. You have made it become a part of your perception. And because it has become a part of your perception, a part of your life, let's say, that's why it's one with you. And if it is one with you, then it is something that we can now adjust. No? This is now just because of the wording of the control. And now this idea of outside world, inside world, outside influences or outside adjustment or outside control and internal adjustment. There was a time when I used to travel quite a lot here to different countries, visiting different, let's say, mainly businesses it was. Because what they wanted our monastery or our organization to support with a bit was that all these employees, all these high managers, they were very stressed because of work, like the real heavy business environment. So they asked us, so what is our advice? And sometimes when we went there, we asked them, okay, write please on a piece of paper, what is it actually that ultimately is stressing you so much? And so people always, we had that small survey, and so at the end we had a collection of a lot of different things written on the paper. What are the stressors that in this business world, for example, is stressing them? Yeah, sometimes people say it's the traffic jam in the morning. Sometimes people say it is the deadline. Other people say it is the colleagues at work. Other people say there is the construction site next to my office, which Yes? So, but at the end, there were some similarities, but at the same time, what also was just written there black on white was different people have different reasons why they are stressed. That is the one conclusion. So what it means is, it's not correct to say that the traffic jam is stress. No, the traffic jam just triggers something inside of you why you feel stressed. Because other people are in the traffic jam, they don't feel stressed. Other people receive a message, they don't get stressed. Another one, he receives the same message, but he gets stressed. So what do I want to point out is that apparently if somebody feels stressed, is something very personal. So that automatically means it is not the external circumstances that are the stress, that are causing the stress. They might be triggering something. They are triggering something that internally, inside of you at the moment, is not adjusted properly, or maybe is not aligned in the proper way to deal with that external impulse. Let's say it like this. And of course, there is this idea, well, why I mention it, that the stress is not coming from the outside. This is like, what is my conclusion, what I want to point out. I want to say everything that is disturbing to you is not because of this outside world. It's because something inside of you is not properly aligned. But we can play this game. Meaning, let's just say someone has all financial possibilities. So money is not an issue. And you are trying now to fix everything in the external world which is causing stress to you. Which means, for example, you use all of... Good? Yeah. You are using all of that money, for example, and try, first of all, let's say, exactly. You're trying to make a program that is filtering out all the emails that you are receiving in the inbox with all the type of messages that you don't like to read. Or actually that have a content that you already know would cause something to rise inside of you. So how will it be? What are you going to do? You're going to install some spam filters. You're going to have a blacklist. So you can do everything in order to try and control what message is going to arrive in your inbox. And now I ask you, do you really think you can control, with all of these technological advancements, do you really think you can control who is going to send you which email with what content and at what time? I also don't think this is possible. Now sometimes people say, the people around me are stressing me. Okay, let's control the people around you. Let's take the best example. Think about the person that is the closest to you and that also knows you the best. Yeah? Might be one of your brothers, might be one of your sisters, could be your parents, could be a good friend. Just think about that person. Does that person always say the things or do the things or behave in the way how you expect this person to behave or do? Okay? So what is it that we are right now talking about? We are talking about the closest person in your life. The closest one is even not in 100%, not even 50%, the way how you imagine him or expect him to be. Yeah, and now we're talking about a society where other people, you saw them for the first time. So why should they behave in a way how someone personally expects? Now it's not family, now it's getting farther. It's just colleagues that you work with in a certain time. Then maybe it is like the neighborhood that you are living in. Then sometimes you meet people from the city area. So the more far away we get, what does it mean? The less influence we have on them. So the idea of trying to change a human being out there, I also think it's wasted energy. And so we were talking on the one side about trying to use technology to control the external world. Then we were talking about trying to control human beings in the external world. And in both cases, I come to the conclusion, it's not working. So there's now only one thing, again, that remains. Because apparently the stress and the worries and the fear, it arises somewhere. And that somewhere is individually always inside oneself. And this is that paradox part sometimes about this world, that you know when you are sad, the sadness sits inside of you. When you worry about something, it's your worry. Other people around you maybe see the issue too, but they don't worry. You worry. But nevertheless, we try to fix this issue. We try to look for the solution. Yeah, not inside of you. You try to find it out there. And this is what I think is a little bit this idea that at least in our tradition, why we think this self-reflection is a very helpful method, let's say, in order to really reflect about yourself. Think, look inside yourself. Because all of these things, all of these emotional states, they all take place inside of you. So if you want to adjust something about the way how you feel, the way how we feel, it's inside of us that we need to find the right points to trigger inside of me. Because there's that really nice saying, yeah? If there is something that you can to 100% adjust and control in this life, it can only be yourself. If there is something which is 100% in your control, it must be yourself. What else should it be? And so if you think there is a possibility to master something, to take responsibility of something, then I think it must be related first of all to your being. And therefore, yes, we talk about internal world, external world, but this is so close related with each other that ultimately, you can't live in only one of these. Let's put it like this. In the way how we talk, we say, there's the internal world, there's the external world. The external causes me stress. So maybe some people now might think, and the one from Shaolin, he said, so you should take care of the internal, meaning not taking care of the external. This is not what I said. I said, also look here from time to time. But ultimately, it is impossible to even separate those two from another. Because whether something is internal or external only depends on where you are placing let's say, the mind. Because while I'm sitting here, I can try and figure out what type of emotional state am I in right now. Yeah? So it means while I'm looking at you, while we drink tea, I can still with my mind actually do something else. You see? So be inside of me. But still, our conversation is going on. At the same time, it can also mean that inside something is cultivating. I just don't pay attention to it. Instead, I pay more attention to the outside. I pay more attention to how the tea tastes. So that means it still is always there. Internal, external, it still is there all the time. It's just that we as humans have this ability to sometimes switch, to sometimes pay attention. Okay, now you want to pay attention to the external a little bit more. Okay, do it. Sometimes then, but return back. Now the external, you let it stand still, you move internally. And then you find the balance. That what you have on the inside reflects one-on-one on the outside. Because then there is no internal and external anymore. There is just that one state of being. You're not switching worlds anymore. It's just that one type of, let's say, experience. And this is something that can be practiced. But in order to connect, you first must know what is there existing that can be connected. And that is an external world and an internal world.
How would you practice that connection? Getting the connection between the internal and the external?
Now before already, maybe the people don't know, but when we did a little bit, when I showed you some of the training practices, there is something you are doing externally, let's say, of touching that back. It's an external movement. It's something people on the outside can see. What they could not see, what only you know, is how does that what you do there is connected to what you feel in there, what comes up inside of you. Yes? And this is already one expression of there is something you do externally, but it is affecting you on the inside. And no matter what it is, even if you start riding a bicycle, in order to ride the bicycle, you need the sense of balance. There is something that you are doing on the inside. The question is, are you aware of what exactly it is you are doing it? And so that's why we say there are so many different methods how to cultivate and how to slowly start establishing this type of connection. Also like doing only kitchen work, cutting vegetables. Also this, because, how I say it, if you would have closed eyes, you know when the knife is touching the vegetable, because it goes hand in hand with a perception of feeling. You know when it's touching. So let's just imagine you're really concentrated. You know when it's touching. And so now, at the same time, you know now, how do you properly cut? So you maybe slide a little bit to the front, and then you do that one slide. Closed eyes. So what does it mean? It means that there is something where you connect feeling with action. Internal sensation with movement. Internal sensation with movement. This is what we mean when your internal energies are aligned with your action. Yeah. Another way, and yeah, very typical now for this tradition where like we are coming from is what we call Qigong. Qigong is that method to connect internal and external. Because, for example, literally translated, that word of Qi, many people sometimes try to translate it as energy, which is not wrong, but another very simple expression of Qi is just breath. The breath. The gong standing for exercise or for work, for exercising, for working, for increasing some skill. So Qigong is breath work, simplified. And why do we say that breath work helps with the connection? It's because our breath is the only thing in this complete universe that is literally traveling always with every breath from inside world to outside world. Because the air, the oxygen comes from there and comes in and is then inside of you. So the air, we say, is that intermediate link between the internal world and the external world. This is why then on a later level, sometimes people become spiritual and say Qigong is the key. Because it is that missing link between the external and the internal. And like I mentioned before, in some conversations, this is why there are existing spiritual Qigong practices. Practices to build up that link. It was in a conversation I had with your brother about what is it afterwards when this body is gone. Well, the body at the moment is a carrier, is a vessel through which this energy at the moment is flowing through. So what happens if that vessel falls apart? I don't know what happens. But if it falls apart, but that amount of energy that you have cultivated is still existing, it might just search for another vessel to get into another exchange of internal and external. And this is why this Qigong, let's say, is something very, very well known as a spiritual practice on the one side, but also to really just simply get in touch with this idea that you want to take more part in this life. You want to engage more in living a life. How do you do it? The easiest way. Learn how to breathe properly. Learn to use your breath as good as you can. Learn from resources that are available and learn the practices that go hand in hand with it. Now, sometimes I really get a lot of questions that are still based a lot like on philosophical level. But at the same time, me myself, when I was in school before, my favorite subjects in school was mathematics, physics, chemistry, and sport. Because chemistry, physics, mathematics, this is not about imagining something. This is, you have a formula, and if you put 1 and 1 together, something comes out. If you make it a second time, same formula, same result comes out. So that means, in a way, it's very rational, it's very logic. So that means this type of thinking, that 1 + 1 is 2, it's logic, I can follow that thought, it makes sense to me. I have this inside of me. Which means if somebody comes up and gives me a philosophical question or a philosophical opinion, I think about it. But I really try to get the part out that somehow has to do, let's say, with fantasy world, imagination, illusion. Yeah. So, and why I mention this is because this Qigong, just think about, from the moment on that we are born, our lungs start to breathe. Inhale, exhale. Until today, our lungs never made a mistake. You have never inhaled one time more than you have exhaled. So that means our lungs already keep a certain rhythm. Looking at our heart, the heart keeps a certain rhythm. This earth never stopped turning. The moon never stopped turning. So one thing I can see is circular movement, repetitive movement, reoccurring movement is part of the world we're living in. And at the same time now, if I think about, okay, people mention Qigong, which is breath work. This breath work is very close related to the quality of life. The more qi you nourish, the more qi you have, the more energy you have, the more you can do with it in this lifetime. And now I switch back and think, okay, qi, breath, oxygen, breathing. And now you just look at, you look at our oven down in the basement. If we want to create more heat, if you want to create something more than it is right now, it's not just we need more wood. We need to open the valve more, that more oxygen streams in. If you maybe heard about how people are, let's say, trying to increase the performance of an engine, it also means somewhere along the line you need to have more air intake. More air plus more fuel injection, or however you put it in there, that equals more performance. And so for us humans, it means you need to eat, you need to breathe that amount of necessary air inside of your body, and then the process of creating energy that you then can make useful with your body, then it can start. So you can see all of this qi and energy as something like philosophical, esoteric, but for me it's like it's just like real. It's very logic for me. So, and yeah, this is one of my special moments where I actually don't even know anymore what the question was. But I think somehow we probably covered it.
Yeah, you covered the combining the external and the internal. Yes. Made sense to me. So I'd like to talk about Marcus Aurelius, who was the Emperor of Rome. He's considered the last great Emperor of Rome. And he was, at the time, the most powerful man alive. And many people say that power corrupts. So with ultimate power, that corrupts ultimately. But he kept his true character using his philosophy. But they also say that weakness corrupts, in that you're a victim to certain circumstances. I'd like to know how you would keep true to your character and not allow weakness or power to corrupt you.
Power corrupts. How do you call it? It probably might be that in the moment where your power, that in the moment where your power increases, and now let's say the definition, what is power? In the way how I right now understand it, if I want something to be done, and I have power, then it means I maybe have the possibility that other people do it for me. I can maybe talk to these people because I have the power, so these people are going to help me of what I want. It can only mean I have so much power, I do it by myself. So, to simplify it, if I hear power, it only means I have an idea, I want it to be done. And it will be done. So, just having this definition so far right now, power corrupts. I don't know. But if you tell me to possess this type of a power, that what you want will be done, and then it merges together with a weakness of character, then I can very well understand if then you would say having power, a lack of character, then the chances are higher that this power can corrupt you. Then I would say it's definitely like this. Yeah, but at the same time, at least from the people that I am surrounded with, I know both cases, but I know both of them. I know people that are very, very aware of the power that they have. They are also aware of when they are maybe starting to misuse it, but they don't do it because they already are standing above them. They know exactly when that moment is coming, when it's getting, let's say, dangerous in terms of now you need to be careful to not overuse this power because you're starting to lose your mission. Why initially someone gave you this power. And this is now actually a very, very nice introduction also to what is it that here in these ancient traditions, why meanwhile there are so many, let's say, videos also available of sometimes ancient cultures that are sharing out some type of knowledge. Because people understand that knowledge is a type of power. It's true like this. First, you need to get the knowledge. If then the knowledge you even put into practice, then you automatically start to become powerful. Your body becomes powerful and your mind becomes powerful. So, knowledge, in a way, I would say, has a huge potential of giving you exactly that. You want something to be done and you know what needs to be triggered right now, that it is done. This is what in our tradition we do when it comes to the martial arts. We are trying to gain knowledge about ourselves first. If I understand my body, how it is functioning, I know how your body is functioning. Because we have the same human body. So if I have invested that knowledge in understanding myself, I'm going to understand how your body is functioning. Because I know which joint was or is developed for which function, I also know that joint is not made for another function. And so automatically from that knowledge, you know the weak points and you know the strong points about someone. And now I'm not sure if I mentioned it in one of our conversations before already, but you know the Jedis, yeah? The Jedis have power. And Darth Vader also has power. They have the same power, but something is different about them. And in an ancient but at the same time modern way, what makes the difference between them is that one possesses power and at the same time has an ethical conduct, an ethical codex that goes hand in hand with the power. And the other one probably almost also has his codex, but it's a different one. Yeah? And I think this is what makes the difference. Power itself is not wrong. It's the question, what is the person possessing this power using it for? And this is why here in our organization, in our community, there is that part where you are learning about the martial arts, and there is the other part where you are staying in front of a plastic statue and put your head on the ground. Because this is the part where now literally we are saying, stop dreaming too much. Stay on the ground. And now bow in front of the plastic statue. We all know it's a plastic statue. We know that. But still, it is our honest way of behaving to still sometimes humble yourself. Yeah? And this is one part of like a small ritual that you actually find in many, many different layers within, for example, this community. I mean, you see, meanwhile, in those days when you were here, for example, I might have some different robes with different colors, but the cut or the let's say the design of all of them is always the same. All looks the same. There's no brand on it, no nothing. All our disciples, let's say, have the same uniform. Because this is also one way how we are trying inside this monastery to get rid of this jealousy. That type of jealousy. Oh, look, he has like nice Adidas shoes, but I don't have nice Adidas. I only have Reebok or Nike and stuff like this. Same also sometimes for the hair. So everybody shave the head finished. First of all, it saves water in the morning. Second of all, you don't need the gel to style yourself. Yeah. So this is sometimes really like the functional reason why uniform. Yeah. Because this uniform also always reminds you again. Yes, you are special, but also not. Yeah. Because if you are only special, from beginning, growing up always special, everybody regards you special. So then I think it's dangerous. Then I think it's dangerous to then, when you feel you have power, to become overwhelmed by it. Yeah, and so what is it that, let's say, I personally do in order to prevent this? I reconnect just always over and over again and try to see, okay, where are you standing at this moment? What are you doing? What is it at the moment that I'm actually doing? What is my intention? Why I'm doing the things? Yeah. And if there's something that after reconsidering, I say, no, this is not, it's not the pure and wholesome intention. I change it. Yeah. It sometimes, of course, can happen. It can happen that sometimes you are you're doing, and you are like, you think you're in the flow, but then actually you already drifted apart a little bit, like from your initial idea. That's why I say, from time to time, you need testing. Either testing, are you still on the right track? Or looking at yourself, where are you standing right now? So, but that also means that once you see that you are off track, you also need to acknowledge it. And once again, only someone whose character is well established, I think, will be willing to acknowledge when you have made a mistake. So that means staying true with the power that you have, not misusing it, goes hand in hand with a steady and established character. That's it.
So you spoke about an ethical codex, which is quite similar to, well, I think it's quite similar to the 4 cardinal virtues of courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. How important do you think it is to have this ethical codex or ethical conduct?
If the proper way of behaving within a society would be something that naturally arises, you wouldn't need it. But it doesn't. Because meanwhile, we are so many different cultures, so many different nations that are mixing together. And so the influences that we are, let's say, exposed to, it's too high. People have different upbringings, people have different understandings. So therefore, it naturally comes up that, okay, we need something that is established between us as, let's say, almost like an agreement, which is for you personally, that ethical conduct. So that means, I think it's important because it is forming who you are. This is making the difference between somebody who is becoming something because of his environment, the external environment, all these impacts, they have created you. Or you create yourself. Why? Because there is something that you tell to yourself, this is my guide, this is my codex, this is how I want to live this life. And then all these external circumstances, they do not really impact you so much anymore. And yes, so therefore I do think that it's super important to have something like this.
I agree. So there's a Latin phrase, amor fati, which translates roughly to the love of one's fate. So it's the idea that no matter what happens in life, either good or bad, that you accept it because it's kind of your fate is determined for you. So you have to be thankful for what has been given to you, either by creator or by nature or by the universe. What's your thoughts on the acceptance of one's fate?
Yes. In the moment, let's say, if one of us would win in the lottery, unexpectedly, something like this is easy to appreciate. If we are losing something that we really loved, if something is being taken away from us that we really love, it's difficult to appreciate such a situation. But this is human. That is very, very human. So first of all, I really think that we must differentiate a little bit between what is first of all human natural behavior and reaction to it. And then afterwards, there is an underlying, there's an underlying story still behind that. And on that behind screen, I do think that every pain that you are receiving, every challenge that you are facing, it belongs to your journey. It is part of your journey. And to acknowledge, to accept whatever life is throwing at you, and still have on the mind that this is like just a test. This is how I used to think for myself. Yeah, I never begged for an easy life. But when challenges are coming right now, and especially when you then realize if you want, you can overcome them. I think this is something that in a way remains deep inside of you and that you can keep on taking. But especially what also arises together with that is that you have solved something for yourself that many, many other people in this world still have ahead of them. And what does it mean right now again? It means that now that you have went through that hardness, now you can be the guide for others. And to maybe see this as a type of purpose. You go through the hard times in order for others not to go through it so hard anymore. Something like this can only arise if you have cultivated something that in our tradition we call compassion. And in this tradition, at the same time, we also say there are two things which are almost the most important, no matter what you do in this lifetime. To have compassion and wisdom. Compassion and wisdom. Those two. These, I would say, like, these are the ingredients for the universe being on your side. And then all your faith can go into the universe.
I love it. It's quite similar to the Stoic teachings of justice and wisdom, and that you need to use your wisdom to help others. I think it's very similar. Another Latin phrase that the Stoics like to use is memento mori, which means to remember one's death, or remember that one day you will die, and sort of accept that fate. Do you think it's important to keep death at the forefront of your mind, to remember that one day you will die?
Throughout your months, definitely, because it really brings you back, and sometimes automatically, if you mean it seriously and if you are really feeling it, what you have there on the mind, meaning that this life will end in the way how you know it. That sometimes is enough to recalibrate you in paying more attention of where you are investing your lifetime. This is for sure something true. Now, always like, I can already hear probably some type of critics or misinterpretations in that saying that probably are stating that, isn't it a little bit pessimistic to have this outcome every day? So, and therefore I say, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's more useful to have this sometimes on the mind and from that real thought derive your daily actions, or to like not think about it and create an illusionary world that ultimately anyway is going to break down and fail because you are not in because your actions, the way how you are thinking, are not in harmony with how it is. And how is it? Impermanent. Not lasting. The lifetime as you know it right now, it's not lasting. So, conclusion, try to make the best from it. Don't waste it. So, in that sense, yeah, I do think it's a useful sentence to keep in mind. Yeah.
I agree. I think it helps give gratitude for every moment we have. It really makes you focus on the present moment when you realise it right now could be my last moment. This talk with you could be my last time on earth. I think makes me appreciate it much more. There's another term which is eudaimonia, which it means, I like the translation human flourishing. So it's if you've been given a divine spirit, then it means you're accessing that divine spirit. You're living up to your full potential. You're the greatest character that you could be. And that is achieved by living in accordance with nature and following these virtues or these ethical conduct, these ethical codex. Yeah. How would you think, or how do you think you can achieve this eudaimonia, this human flourishing?
So one thing I was just thinking about is that according to what you just said, you should live in nature, yes? So let me put it like this. I would absolutely agree with everything, but also say like, discover your nature. Discover your nature. What does it mean? Remove everything that's artificial. In the moment you are removing everything that's artificial, you are getting in touch with what has really been given to you and therefore have the possibility to make it flourish. Now the thing is, what is artificial? What is natural? I tell you what's artificial. Artificial is that you're a doctor. Artificial is that you're the CEO. Artificial is that you're this and you're that. Artificial is the titles you put upon yourself. Artificial is everything that you can take off. It's everything that you don't have on you anymore when you are under the shower. The suit, the dress, the brand, the styling, the makeup, that's all artificial. So what is it? Take all of this away. Titles away, achievements away, makeup away, styling away. So what remains there? Body, okay, body, then what else? What is filled in that body? What this body is filled with. And so how do you know now what is filled inside yourself? I do think same answer. You need to look inside. You need to look beyond all these artificial things that sometimes you believe you are. Yeah, I can tell you by myself right now, sitting in front of you, I know as what I am representing myself. Tonight when I'm under the shower, that one doesn't matter. I shower just like every other human being too. So that means right now I know what I am representing. But this is gonna go. Later, if I'm under the shower, I have something else. I have something else on the mind. Yeah? And therefore, I really think it's from time to time necessary that you yourself are able to let go of everything that you are thinking you have attained. You know, many people come to this monastery and they know me from the different platforms on internet, and then it's always Master Shi Heng Yi and here and there. Yes, but this is only one side that people know about me. It is the one side that publicly they can see. Because I'm using this type of, let's say, identification, because it helps to open up the mind of sometimes the people. Because sitting like this, talking in this way, merged together with the knowledge that I gathered from the Shaolin tradition and from the Buddhist tradition, I really do think that these methods or these areas possess knowledge that even if you're not a monk and if you're not practicing any martial art, is still useful for the people out there. And this is why I think this is the easiest way of transmitting it outwards. But at the same time, when I do not have these closes, I see other possibilities. I see other possibilities. I see other possibilities that this one is the way how I am right now in this lifetime. But as I also said before, I don't know what else is going to come. But for me, my potential, I can only see it if this falls. As long as you are staying inside one type of image of yourself, one type of imagination or picture about yourself, I think you're only limiting yourself. Potential means is unlimited. Yeah.
Great. I just want to say thank you for explaining your perspective on these Stoic teachings and for talking to me today.
Thank you also very much. You're always welcome.
Thank you. You made it to the end of the talk with Master Shi Heng Yi. What was your favorite lesson? What was the most valuable thing you learned from this talk? It's hard to just pick one thing. Certainly for myself, it's hard to pick one thing, as he said so much wisdom. And often the case with his talks, you have to listen to them multiple times, and then you start to really understand his words and his principles and beliefs, and you can start to use them and adapt them into your life so that you can learn from these principles, grow from these principles, and become a better person. A large part of that talk was the topic of death. Now, the Stoics say memento mori, remember one's death. It's this reminder of your own mortality that adds presence and urgency and gratitude to the current moment, current life you are living right now, because we do not exist in the past or the future. We exist in this present moment. So that brings me to my next point. I like to use a memento mori life calendar to remind me of my own mortality. And today's video is sponsored by the Memento Mori Life Calendar, which you can get 10% off on my website with code Memento Mori. It brings me much value to my life every week when I fill out one of those squares. It reminds me that my time is limited, and it reminds me to reflect on the time that has gone. Every square you fill out is a week of your life. So reflect on that. Think where you could have made different decisions, what you could have done better, or what you did good, and be grateful for the times that you had, and be grateful for the time you have now. So thank you for watching. I want to say a big thank you to the YouTube members that are supporting this channel, and the subscribers, and everyone that's commenting. I'm getting so much great feedback on the Instagram and YouTube, so I'm very appreciative of that feedback and kind words from everyone. It just motivates me to do more of these projects, and hopefully I can speak to people like Master Shi Heng Yi and maybe speak to him again, visit the Shaolin Temple again. But obviously it takes time and money and energy, so I appreciate the support. And like I say with all these videos, if you're one of the very few, I don't know, like 0.01% of people that make it right to the video and actually are listening right to the end of the video, then comment now, N-O-W, because one thing I learned from Master Shi Heng Yi is to be in the present, that we only exist in the now. And it's a Stoic principle, but it's something I learned from his talks. So comment now, N-O-W. I'll understand what you mean, and I'll understand that you made it this far. You're one of the very few that made it right to the end, and I'll appreciate that. And it shows that some people watch right to this very last second. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.